Hey, this is Mike Robbins. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the podcast. I hope you're doing well. You, your family, your team, everyone around you. I hope things are going, as good as they possibly can. Whenever you're listening to this or watching this as I'm recording it, what's today? We're in August the 14th as we keep rolling through the summer, moving into the school year. It's definitely on my mind. I want to talk today about embracing the now, like really being in the present moment, which is something I've talked about before here on the show and have written about and done videos about. But I think it's really important and challenging, and it's up for me right now for a couple of very specific reasons that are a bit different. But I want to share a little bit of that. I actually yesterday was out going for a run and I tweaked something in my calf. So I pulled a muscle, not too significantly, although I've been limping around a little bit for the last, 24 hours or so. And look, I never like getting injured. I don't think any of us do. It's like getting sick. Like who likes that? But there's something about getting hurt while it sucks and isn't fun and can be scary. And, I have some experience with this from all my years playing baseball and, my career essentially ending because of an injury that it can really kind of trigger me emotionally. But it definitely is one of those things that brings me into the present moment. Again, not in the most positive way, but it's like, oh, whoa, I have to be that much more mindful. Um, I was literally out running, and it happened yesterday, and I had to call Michelle and see if she could come pick me up, and then I sort of hobbled to a place where she could come get me because I was on a trail. And anyway, it was a whole thing, but it definitely had me stop and think. First of all, I'm grateful that most of the time I'm not injured and I can walk and run and move around and, be physical, which I'm grateful at 50 years old to be as active and, physically well as I am. And, but also just that remembering of, oh, yeah, there's a lot to be grateful for. And can I be present in the moment with what's actually happening? And, when I had to yesterday and even this morning be that much more mindful and thoughtful as I walk down the stairs, it just kind of, it is one of those things that can really bring us into the present moment. Pain can do that. It's not the only thing, and it's probably not the most elegant way for us to be in the present moment, but there's that. Now, separate from this and unrelated, but Samantha, our oldest, is heading off to college in just a few days. And a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, a lot coming up around that, as you can imagine. I'm excited. I'm feeling excited and grateful and looking forward to the adventure she's going to have and her starting this next chapter of her life and being able to drop her off and help her move in and all the excitement of that. And at the same time, feeling a lot of sadness and a lot of grief and a lot of like, wow, how did that happen? Right? Like I swear it seems like she was 6 years old like a few months ago. Um, but realizing that life is about to change significantly for her, for us, for our family, and trying to do the best that I can in these last few days before she goes to be present, to engage, to connect, and not just to be so caught up in the frenzy of, okay, do we pack this? Do you have that? Are you set up with this? What do we do about that? I mean, and there's a lot to do. Rosie, our younger daughter, turns 16 next week and starts her sophomore year of high school. And we're going to take a little trip um, to celebrate her birthday over the next few days. I mean, there's a lot going on. So, when I get busy or when things are full and at times even overwhelming, it can be challenging to stay present because there's so many things to handle and to manage and to like sort out or think about, or even if you're wired anything like me, worry about. So, staying in the present moment, being present, really engaging in the now. Most of us know that's important. If you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this and this is something that you're drawn to, this type of work, I mean, the idea of being present, the idea of being in the now is not probably a new concept for you. However, it can be super challenging. And I think more challenging today than ever. There's so many things distracting us. There's so many things pulling at our attention, right? All of this great technology, the technology that allows you to listen to and or watch this, is fantastic. You're probably listening to this or watching this on your phone or some device that didn't exist, a number of years ago, for better or worse. And that in and of itself, the technology and all of the media and distraction that we have these days makes it hard to stay in the present moment. There are things happening in the country, in the world, around us, even in our own life, that are, legitimately concerning or scary, that can have us future trip and worry about, what about this? What about that? What about my health? What about my kids? What about the future of the country? I mean, we're right in the middle of, depending on when you're listening to this or watching this, we're right in the middle of a pretty intense and dynamic and ever-changing election cycle here in the US. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's easy to get caught up in the excitement or the fear or the what's happening today and what's going to happen and who's going to win and what's that going to mean and all the things, right? So many things pull at us. It can be difficult for me. I mean, again, I've shared this before, and again, you're probably listening to or watching this on your phone. I have a love-hate relationship with my phone. I love that I can listen to things and watch things and connect with people, and I can use it to share ideas and thoughts with other people that I know or on social media or whatever. And there's an endless amount of information and inspiration and connection that can come through my phone. At the same time, it's so easy to get distracted and freaked out and sucked down rabbit holes on YouTube and, you know, Twitter or whatever, that like I can spend and waste hours of my life and be attached at the hip to the phone as I'm walking around the house and like not engaging with the people that I love the most in the world because I'm busy watching some interview or some speech or some song or some clip of something, God knows what. So, like, how can we stay present? It's not easy. There's a lot of things that pull us out of the present moment, that take us to the past, right? I've been reflecting a lot as Samantha's getting ready to go off to college. There's a lot of memories that are coming up, and a lot of them are sweet. Some of them are a little bittersweet because as I think back to, or I look at photos, or I listen to different audios, or look at videos or things, it's like, oh, that's changing, right? And that's real. And I do like the nostalgia of it. I do like the reflection of it. There's something powerful and really beautiful about it. And I can find myself caught in the past, right? Thinking about memories and times and idealizing the past sometimes, or wishing for the past. Sometimes we can get caught in the past with painful experiences we've had from the past, but like trying to relitigate the past or go back through or focus on regrets, which can be a really helpful and powerful thing so that we can forgive ourselves, so that we can make amends, so that we can apologize, so that we can atone for things, learn from things, evolve. I think reflecting on the past is a really powerful thing when I'm working with leaders and teams as we look back over the previous month or quarter or 6 months or year or 5 years or whatever, like what's worked, what hasn't worked, what can we celebrate, what can we also adjust and learn from. That's a really powerful exercise for all of us, individually, collectively, absolutely. But we can get stuck in the past, living in the glory days or whatever, which isn't in the present moment. Again, painful things can happen in the past. Wonderful things can happen in the past that then maybe the present doesn't match up to that past. There's a bunch of reasons, but the past is gone. It's happened already. Can we learn from it? Yes. Can we reflect on it? Yes. Can we celebrate it and be grateful for it? And yeah, but if we're dealing with a current day challenge or even crisis, or if we're in some state of loss or grief, sometimes the past can be really painful. And we can get ourselves stuck there either by, obsessing about it or avoiding it or whatever. And then with the future, again, the future planning, goal setting, I talk about this a lot every year around the end of the year and the beginning of the year. If you've listened to this show for a while, I'm really passionate about completion and creation, setting goals, setting intentions, having dreams and visions for what do I want to create this year or this month or this quarter or today or in the next decade or whatever. Like there's something really powerful about setting our intention and having goals and dreams and going for it. And as we all know, and I've definitely dealt with in my life, we can get stuck in that. We can get obsessed with that so much so that I'm not living in the present because I'm simply preparing for the future. I'm simply hoping and dreaming it'll be better when whatever, fill in the blank happens. And then we learn the hard way, either that thing doesn't happen and we're disappointed or heartbroken about it, or it does happen and then we realize, oops, I wasn't paying attention to my real life while I was, what's that great saying from John Lennon? Life's what happens when we're busy making other plans. So we're busy making other plans. We're busy planning for the future or worrying about the future. I mean, that's one of the things that's been coming up for me when I think about the two things that I shared, right? That like hurting my calf in and of itself, not that big of a deal. Thankfully, not super painful. I mean, again, I was hobbling around yesterday. I'm feeling a little bit better today. Not awesome, not ideal, not what I wanted. I'm probably not going to run for a couple weeks here. I'm going to need to rest. I mean, whatever. But usually, whether it's an injury or an illness or something painful, even if it's super painful, if we know this will go away in a day or a week or a month or whatever, it's the fear of the future. What if this doesn't? What if I did some damage that's never going to be repaired? What if this just gets worse? What if this leads to some? I mean, right? We can get ourselves caught in all kinds of worries and fear stories about, I think about Samantha going off to college, which again is really exciting, a big milestone, super proud of her, super excited. And I think a lot about having thought about this over the years and worrying about it. If I'm being really honest, like, is she going to get into school? Where's she going to get into school? Right? She's going to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, which is where Michelle went, and it's an amazing place. Super excited, super proud of her, super grateful. It's for so many reasons. It's like it's just a few hours away from us. It's in a great town. It's a great school. That like everyone I've ever met went to that school, loved it. Everyone, including my wife. But even with that, it's like, oh my gosh, I spent and wasted a lot of time and energy worrying over the last number of years about how's it going to turn out? What's going to happen? Is she going to get into a school that she likes? Will she be happy about it? Will we be happy about it? How far away will it be? Will we have the money to pay for it? All the things, normal things, understandable things. If you have kids who are younger than heading off to college age, you can probably relate to some of these concerns. And even if you don't, if you've done that and it already happened in the past, or even if you don't have kids, you can imagine those are normal things to be thinking about and to some degree worrying about, right? But like, can't control any of that. And the truth is, it did not play out anywhere close to the way I thought it would play out over the last few years. Samantha's journey through high school was a wild, trippy, intense up and down ride. I mean, COVID and so many other things and challenges. And like when I was thinking about this 10 years ago, 18 and a half years ago when she was born, and I thought about these things, it is nothing like what I expected, not even close. The world today is nothing like I thought it would be 20 years ago, right? So, again, while it is important for us to, and can be really powerful for us to plan for the future, think about the future, have goals for the future, save money or whatever it is, right? You think about a business, it's like we got to create our budget for the year, our annual goals and targets, our KPIs. All those things are essential. But I often say when I'm working with teams, especially if it's a kickoff event, beginning of the year, it's like, hey, guess what? I hope the year goes awesome. I hope you meet and exceed all of your most important KPIs. But let's be honest, you've done this before. It's not going to play out the way you think it's going to play out, for better or worse. It's just not. It never does. It doesn't. And that's one of the things that makes life really exciting and at times exacerbating and challenging and frustrating is like we can't control hardly anything. Our attitude, our effort. You've heard me talk about that before. We can control our attitude, our mindset, and our effort, our behavior, but that's really it. We can't control the outcome. We don't know how things are going to play out. And it doesn't mean we can't prepare for the future. It doesn't mean we can't think about the future or talk about the future or envision the future or dream or set goals. But like if we spend and waste a lot of our time in the future, we miss out on the present, right? And this happens all the time. So staying in the present moment, as simple of a concept as it is super challenging. And I think in today's world, with the pace and the pressure and the stress and the expectation and all the things coming at us and all the different platforms of communication and technology and information and entertainment and media and ideas coming at us all the time, and the expectation that we're supposed to be on and responding and all of that, and just the natural, normal state of being human, which can allow us to either get stuck in the past or obsessed with the future, either in a positive way by setting goals or in a terrified way in terms of being worried. Like, but the reality is the only place that we really have power is in the present moment. That's where all of our power is, right here, right now, in this moment. As you're listening to these words, whether you're walking around, driving, doing the dishes, exercising, or you're watching the video of this sitting in your office or whatever it is, right here, right now, in this moment, right now, that's it. You can learn from the past, you can reflect on the past, you can be informed by it to some degree, but you can't go back. It's over. And you can plan for the future and think about the future or worry about the future or try to set things up so that the future goes as well as possible, but you cannot control it. And you can't do something tomorrow, next week, next month until you get there. And when you get there, there you are, right? The power of now. Or as Ram Dass famously said, be here now in this moment. Here we are, you and me together. I don't know when you're listening to this or watching this. Maybe it's right after I'm recording it, or maybe it's weeks, months, years later. But whenever it is, you're in the now moment, as I am, as I'm recording this. And again, I know we all know this. This is not like rocket science. This is not like but what can we do to get into the present moment as often as possible, to really fully engage in the present moment? So there's four things that I want to share that, again, are not like I've never heard these before, but if we can remember these, if we can practice these, if we can really invest in these, it can bring us into the present moment more often. And when we do that, so many things become available when we consciously enter into the present moment. If we really embrace the now, right here, right now, whatever's going on in your life, however great or however challenging or whatever combination of that, in this moment, you are okay. You're sitting here listening to this, watching me, and you're okay. You may be dealing with some really hard, challenging, painful circumstances, or you may be dealing with some wonderful, incredible stuff. But right here, right now, in this moment, if you have the ability to hear my words and listen to this or watch this, you are okay. And you can access so much power and so much presence in the moment if you bring yourself into the moment. So, the first thing that we can do, and you've heard me talk about this many times in different contexts here on the show, is practice mindfulness. And that both can mean like a mindfulness meditation practice, something that I've had for many years. And maybe you've been meditating for a long time, maybe not. Maybe you use one of the great apps out there like Headspace, or maybe you have your own technique of doing that. There's lots of different ways to do it, but can you practice mindfulness? Not militantly, not perfectly, but just, and even if you don't have a meditation practice of any kind specifically, or maybe it's sporadic, or maybe whatever, you can still practice mindfulness, because mindfulness is about paying attention, is about being aware of ourselves, of others, of our surroundings, of what's happening. You can mindfully eat. You can mindfully drive. You can mindfully walk. You can mindfully do the dishes. You can mindfully take out the garbage. You can mindfully email. You can mindfully do anything. We can also mindlessly do lots of things, even kind of important things. You ever been in your car driving and like spaced out and realize you missed your exit like miles back? You're like operating a pretty sophisticated, intense piece of machinery, and you're doing it like on autopilot. We all do that. We space out. But can we be mindful? Can we practice mindfulness right here, right now? Lots of different ways to do that. And then cultivating mindfulness can happen in a meditation practice or something of the sort. Journaling, other things that we can do, right? Second thing we can do is limit multitasking. And even as these words come out of my mouth, I will be the first to admit that this is a real struggle for me, especially these days. Our phones are super distracting. There's lots of things happening all at once. And we've all trained ourselves to multitask. You may be multitasking right now. I mean, one of the things, again, especially if you're listening to the audio of this, like you maybe are doing dishes or filing things in your office or going for a walk, or right. Again, I don't necessarily think of like listening to a podcast while I'm walking or driving as some kind of negative multitasking, but technically it is. we're doing more than one thing at a time. So listening to this in somewhat of a passive way while doing something else, not the worst thing in the world. But if you stop right now, whatever you're doing, unless you're driving and it would be dangerous, just stop and see if you can, just for like a minute or two, just focus on the sound of my voice and what I'm saying. That's it. Just fully embrace and engage in this moment in what you're doing. Or if you're doing something else that requires your attention, maybe press pause on the podcast here right now and just fully do that thing and then come back to this. But can we do one thing at a time? Can we notice when we're multitasking and really try to limit that or reduce that as much as possible? Look, we know this again, thinking of the phone, it's like, oh, I can still listen to my kids or my spouse or my coworker while I'm doing something on my phone. Yeah, you can technically, but you miss a lot. And you send a message to them that they're not that important. Sometimes when I'm talking on the phone and it's not a FaceTime, it's not a Zoom, but I'm just talking on the phone, I will catch myself checking email or looking at something. And I notice in those moments, even though the other person on the end of the other line who I'm talking to cannot see me doing that. So they're not going to be like obviously offended that I'm not fully paying attention to them. I'm now not fully engaged in the conversation and I'm not listening completely, not really hearing what they're saying. So can you be aware of your multitasking and limit it whenever possible, or at least just notice that you're doing it and then make a conscious decision. I'm either going to multitask or not, but know that it's going to diminish everything I'm doing if I'm doing more than one thing at a time. Our brains and our nervous systems are designed to do one thing at a time. And doing one thing at a time is a great way to embrace the now, to really bring ourselves into the present moment. I'm just doing this thing. I'm just eating. I'm just walking. I'm just emailing. I'm just going to the bathroom. I'm just whatever, fill in the blank, right? We've now gotten so used to multitasking that it's like uncomfortable for us to do certain tasks just by themselves. So that's the second thing. Third thing is engage your senses, right? Like, as weird as it is, but like injuring my calf yesterday, that's a sensory experience, a painful sensory experience, but it brings me into the present moment. I'm right here, right now. Ouch. And now I have to adjust. I stopped running. I called Michelle. She came to pick me up. I limped my way over to where she could pick me up, right? Now that brings us into the present moment. But sometimes if you just like put your hands together or put your hand on your heart or touch your face, like, oop, yeah, my hands are cold. My face is warm. I can feel that. Take a breath. Look out the window. If you're outside, you know, feel the wind, feel the sun, notice the moon if it's nighttime, whatever it is, just start to, enhance, like just engage your senses, your sense of sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. Eating, drinking can actually be a great mindfulness practice to bring us into the present moment, to really chew our food, to really, but often we're doing something else while we're eating and we're just sort of, we're busy, right? We're scarfing it down. I mean, I definitely struggle with mindful eating, with really slowing down. Or I'm so engaged in the conversation, which I love. I'm connecting with another person over lunch or whatever. I'm not even really paying attention to the food. But engaging our senses, bringing us into that present moment, right? That's why doing certain things physically when we meditate is important. Sometimes people light incense or ring a chime or do something that, again, engages some of the senses, brings us into the present moment. But we can do that getting up from our desk and walking around sometimes. You ever just sat at your desk and worked for hours at a time and realize, oh, like my back's sore. I didn't even notice I had to go to the bathroom, like, right? Because we're not fully present. I had a chiropractor years ago that talked to me about somatic awareness. And he was saying you carry a lot of tension, Mike, in your shoulders and in your lower back because sometimes the way you sit, but you're not aware that you're doing that. And the more aware you become, the more you can adjust your posture. And that can actually, over time, really benefit you physically. So engaging our senses, the third thing. And the fourth thing I want to mention that we can do is to create rituals for reflection. So this goes back to the mindfulness practice, right? Meditation is a great ritual for reflection. Journaling is a great ritual for reflection. prayer. During COVID lockdown, when we were just home day after day after day after day, one of the things that I would do most days, I would go for a walk at the end of the day. I still do it sometimes, but it was a really important ritual for me to kind of decompress from the workday, a transition time before I walked into the house. My office is here. It's in our house, but it's actually a detached kind of in-law unit from the house. And so I can literally get into the house in like 2 seconds. And I'm often in and out of the house throughout the day. But during that time, it was really important for me to have that ritual. So there's lots of rituals for reflection. Maybe it's on your commute, on the train, in the car. What are some rituals for reflection for you at the end of the day? Writing down some things that you learned or things that you're grateful for or whatever it is. Doesn't have to be super involved. You don't have to do it every single day but rituals for reflection are ways for us to reflect on what's happened, but also bring us into the present moment. Take a breath, close our eyes. When my men's group meets, we often just spend a few moments in silence. We'll take some breaths. We'll maybe even sit for a few minutes in meditation, or we'll kind of connect with each other. Because again, when we sit with we'll go out to dinner, we'll chat, and we sit down, and it's like creating that sacred space because we're about to go into a deeper conversation. Some of the teams that I work with will create that for meetings, especially at offsites, but just in general, can we create some kind of ritual that brings us into the present moment so we let go of the past, we stop worrying about what comes next, and we actually engage. And it's hard because like we're on back-to-back Zoom meetings, or we got things going on, or I got to do this, so I do that, and right. Even as I'm recording this, like I have to wrap this up here in a moment because I have a call I have to get on, and then right, like there's things happening all the time. But it's like, can I breathe, put my hands on my heart, touch my arm, see something, smell something, hear something that actually brings me into the present moment, right? That sensory experience. But those things are rituals, and it allows us to reflect. It allows us to bring ourselves into the present moment. So, number one, practice mindfulness. Number two, limit multitasking. Easier said than done. Number three, engage your senses. And number four, create rituals for reflection. Those four things can really bring us into the now, embrace the now, allow us to be more present. And in the present moment, that's where we have freedom, power, influence, impact. That's where we create. That's where everything happens right here, right now. So thanks for listening, watching. Always appreciate it, whether this is the very first time or you've been following the show for a long time. Make sure you hit the follow or the subscribe button, whether you're listening to this on a podcast app or you're watching it on YouTube. There's links in the show notes and down below in the description where you can learn more about me and my work, connect to me on social media. Best place to stay engaged with me and learn about my work is at our website, which is mike-robbins.com. We love it when you leave a rating or a review, or share this episode or these episodes with other people. That just helps more people know about the show. So until next time, keep bringing your whole self to work, to life, in the present moment. And remember, we're all in this thing together.